These visuals of Russian President Putin getting a guard of honor and a royal ceremonial welcome in India by Prime Minister Modi is sure to rock the West as well as China. The West had barely gotten over the shock of Prime Minister Modi holding hands with Putin and Xi Jinping at the SCO summit, but Putin's grand India welcome is sure to ruffle some feathers, especially in the White House. Now, Western media is trying to portray India and Modi on the back foot. New York Times claims the timing is especially fraught for India. BBC says Modi will be walking the proverbial diplomatic tightrope. But it's China's Global Times which has really captured the moment, calling Modi-Putin summit a huge setback for the West instead, while surprisingly showering praise on India-Russia friendship. We'll get you all these details shortly. Before his grand ceremonial welcome at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, President Putin also laid the wreath at Mahatma Gandhi's memorial and signed the visitor's book, marking his visit to Rajghat. Prime Minister Modi presented President Putin with a copy of the sacred Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita. This after Modi himself had welcomed Putin with open arms at the airport, followed by a car ride selfie which broke the internet. We'll tell you how Western media is reacting to this Modi-Putin power play, even as 2001 images of Prime Minister Modi and Putin's first meeting have resurfaced online. We've got lots to cover, so stay with us. When we searched for top news stories on India-Bangladesh, we found out that Inconnectnews report is ranking among the top 5 or the 5 best in Google News videos. I am Shobhit Mittal. Please do subscribe to Inconnect News for the most informative news content. Firstly, Prime Minister Modi continues to be one of the biggest advocates of peace as he once again told Putin, the world should return to peace. I'm sure Donald Trump is watching closely, wondering if Prime Minister Modi will walk away with the Nobel Peace Prize for mediating in the Ukraine war. From New York Times to CNN to BBC, global media outlets are trying to portray this meeting as one which comes under massive international pressure and crippling US tariffs on India-Russia energy and oil trade. However, what the West has failed to notice, surprisingly, China has articulated really well. India just doesn't care about Western approval anymore. CCP mouthpiece, the Global Times, quoted Li Haidong, a professor at China Foreign Affairs University, stating, India is also unlikely to flinch or adopt a timid stance in its Russia policy out of fear of potential US sanctions, as New Delhi is seemingly expressing that they will continue to formulate its policy towards Russia guided solely by its own national interests, unquote. After welcoming Putin in New Delhi, Prime Minister Modi had stated, India-Russia friendship is a time-tested one that has greatly benefited our people. Prime Minister Modi also hosted a private dinner for his guest of honor where he presented the Gita to the Russian president and stated, the teachings of the Gita give inspiration to millions across the world. So let's take a quick look at how foreign media is reacting. Leading Chinese media outlet, the Global Times, have carried out extensive coverage of Putin's visit to India with multiple such headlines. In one of their reports, Global Times quoted Putin speaking to India Today on balancing Russia's ties with rivals India and China. Putin had told India Today, quote, India and China are our closest friends. We treasure that relationship deeply. At the same time, Russia does not feel entitled to intervene because these are your bilateral affairs, unquote. Global Times also quoted Li Haidong, a professor at China Foreign Affairs University, stating that the India-Russia relationship is highly strategic in nature and that India does not succumb to external pressure or interference. He added, through Putin's visit, India and Russia have jointly sent a clear message to the outside world. Neither country is isolated. On the contrary, the two sides enjoy extensive mutual support and strong complementarity. This means that sanctions and pressure from the United States and the West against Russia and India are unlikely to succeed, unquote. Now, New York Times report said the timing of Putin's visit to India is especially fraught for India, which has been searching for a way to resolve its economic tangle with the Trump administration. However, New York Times admitted that any reduction in India's oil imports from Russia will be made up handsomely with new defense deals and pacts. The report added, Mr. Modi, who shares a warm personal bond with Mr. Putin, will have to walk a tightrope between managing India's relationship with Russia, its biggest arms supplier, while satisfying the demands of the United States, its biggest trading partner, all the while pursuing his country's self-interest. Now, CNN report also played up how India will have to balance ties with Russia and US. However, Western media is failing to criticize Donald Trump's hypocritical and frankly unfair tariffs at India, which are simply aimed to curtail Bharat's global rise. Despite Trump claiming he used tariffs to stop the India-Pakistan war, not only New Delhi rejected his claims but has still not surrendered to any US pressure for an unfair trade deal. CNN added, when Vladimir Putin's plane touches down in New Delhi on Thursday, he will be met with the pomp and ceremony reserved for one of India's most steadfast partners. Yet his host, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is simultaneously attempting to maintain a deep strategic relationship with a key global rival, the United States. British state broadcaster BBC also highlighted the tough diplomatic dilemma which the Modi government faces today. This is India's diplomatic split screen. On one side, the potential purchase of advanced Russian fighter jets, cheap oil, and ironclad friendship forged in the Cold War. On the other, American collaboration on technology, trade, and investment, and the hope President Donald Trump will lift his punishing tariffs. He will be walking the proverbial diplomatic tightrope here. The world is watching this bilateral meeting very closely, and there are several reasons behind it. Firstly, note that this is the Russian president's first visit to India after the Ukraine conflict began. Secondly, Putin's visit comes amid tensions and fluctuating relations between India and the United States, especially regarding Donald Trump's imposition of 50% tariffs on Indian goods, which includes 25% of India's purchase of Russian crude oil. Amid this meeting, Trump expressed that he believes Putin still wants to end the war with Ukraine and also get back to normal relationship with the United States. Trump added, President Putin had a very good meeting yesterday with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. What comes out of that meeting, I cannot tell you because it does take two to tango. He or Putin would like to end the war. That was their impression, unquote. So while Modi and Putin met in New Delhi, Trump once again spoke on the Ukraine war, stating, we are making peace all over the world. We are settling wars at levels that nobody's ever seen before. 8 of them. We are looking for one more. That's Russia and Ukraine, if that's possible. And I think we will get there eventually. 8,000 soldiers were killed last month. They had 27,000 soldiers needlessly killed. We gotta get that stopped. We are working very hard on it, unquote. Just before Putin's India visit, the British High Commissioner Lindsay Cameron, French Ambassador Thierry Mathew, and German Ambassador Philipp Ackermann wrote a joint op-ed for the Times of India denouncing Putin's war on Ukraine. Lindsay Cameron wrote, the world wants the Ukraine war to end, but Russia doesn't seem serious about peace. Now, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs slammed the timing of these statements, the MEA spokesperson had stated in the media. The timing is very unusual. It is not acceptable diplomatic practice to give public advice on India's relations with a third country, unquote. In fact, an NDTV op-ed captured the sentiments perfectly with the headline, it's time Europe accepted that its problems are not of India's making. Earlier, the Indian Defense Minister Rajnath Singh had met his Russian counterpart Andrei Belousov one day before Putin's arrival. Both sides reaffirmed their deep sense of trust, common principles, and mutual respect. The Russian Defense Minister assured full-scale cooperation to help modernize Indian armed forces and added, our countries are tied with a solid, time-proven friendship which is based on mutual respect. Inconnect. Amid this global strategic meeting, old photos and videos of Modi's first encounter with Putin from 2001 have once again gone viral on social media. Prime Minister Modi first met Putin in Moscow while serving as the Chief Minister of the state of Gujarat during Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee's regime. A handle, India 2047, wrote, "Roles evolve with time. Moving from the background to sharing the same table shows how leadership grows and how partnerships are shaped on equal footing." Now, since Modi assumed office as Prime Minister in 2014, the two leaders have met at least 11 times. In 2019, Modi spoke on what makes his bond with Putin special. Prime Minister Modi had stated, "I had the opportunity to meet President Putin for the first time in 2001. I came to Moscow with then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee. I was the Chief Minister of a state, and this was our first meeting. However, Putin did not make me feel like I was less important, that I was from a small state, or that I am new. He treated me amicably, like a friend. This opened the doors of friendship." Unquote. Despite US tariff tantrums, Prime Minister Modi's special welcome for President Putin shows India does not abandon its friends under external pressure, and Bharat will continue to bat for peace to end the conflict in Ukraine, but that any solution must be acceptable to all parties involved. So what do you believe? Does Russia remain India's most reliable ally today? Leave a comment with your opinion, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.